All right, Melanie Curtis.
You ready to do this?
I'm so ready.
Oh my God, I love it. So I'll start this one off because I specifically wanted to talk about purposeful pursuits because I feel like that's such a buzzword, word, this idea of purpose. And I also almost canceled today's sesh because yesterday I did this really cool thing I'm very proud of. I jumped out of an airplane 25 times. That's not the cool thing. I mean, it's cool, but we did it for a charity called Friends of Jacqueline, which is basically a charity that promotes and helps raise money and connects sports teams with children with cancer and families. So it was basically this using of whatever influence and positive force that I have in myself and just of whatever people, like the people that follow me on social media and stuff like that, that I could use that for good. And to me, that feels like such a wonderful use and purposeful use of my skydiving self and that part of my career and stuff. But the reason I almost canceled this is because I am exhausted. Like I am so freaking spent. And I didn't even do my hair. I did it on purpose. I literally was like, okay, I'll put on makeup, because I can do that, but I legit was like, I'll go messy chic with the hair.
That's all I do. That's all I know.
But I mean, there's real, I'm going somewhere with this. It's not just to say, oh, please tell me my hair looks good. That's not what this is. It's to illuminate, so the reason I didn't want to cancel this is because I think it's so prevalent that the easy parts of purposefulness are showcased, right? That we so rarely show ourselves in the struggle. I put on makeup because I'm trying to, I don't want to just get out of bed and have cat hair on my shirt and all of that stuff. That's also part of what's real sort of in recovery from really going for it. And we mentioned this last time we spoke, the kill it, rest, rock it, rest, work hard, rest. But I think that this is a big part of it because I want people to know, at least for me, people that know me and follow me and care about me as a person and as a professional and the messages that I put out there. I want people to know that recovery is part of it, that I'm not going to go do 25 jumps in a day, talk to a million people all day long, not talk to people because I needed a hamburger and French fries and Gatorade, and not to talk to people because I was starting to feel nauseous during the actual physical and mental stress of this publicity stunt. So I'm kind of rambling, but I just think it's really important to share that purposeful pursuits are not without struggle. They include struggle, and that's a good thing. And that's the idea of how can I actually do that? I can do it because it feels purposeful. That's where the fire and the motivation to get through something like the small microcosm of doing 25 jumps in one day, it comparatively to the breadth of life. Why is finding and recognizing what feels purposeful to us, why does that matter? Is that's what gets me up and out of bed. That's what gets me through the challenges. That's what gets me to the last jump for this charity in that particular day. And that's what gets me continuing to move forward to create videos with you, to say yes to this phone call, when I just wanted to lay in bed and really sleep and not be seen, So anyway, I digress, but that's sort of why I wanted to do this today.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that because so much of the confusion and where we get stuck is the dialectic. It's on one hand, you push through and you do it even though you don't feel like doing it. And then on the other hand, we're saying, well, you need to rest. So sometimes when you feel like you need to rest, you need to rest and you need to not push through.
Yep.
And that's so confusing. If you're up in your brain, you're that doesn't make any sense. On one hand, you're telling me to do it even though I'm tired. And then the other hand, you're saying I need to rest and say no to things. And it's and one of our mutual friends posted something like that today too, about like, don't say maybe when you want to say no, just say no. I'm like, yes, and slash but.
No,
like,
I always say and.
Get to me, yeah. Same.
They don't mutually exclude.
Right. So getting to a deeper place of clarity on, well, what is kind of the purposeful stuff? How do you untangle that from like the life stuff? And like, cause I know a lot of people like aren't there yet in terms of clarity around, well, I don't really know what my purpose is. I know that I need to like take care of my family and pay the bills. And like, it'd be great if I could like find a purpose and have that be what gets me out of bed in the morning. But like right now I'm at a place where I have this job. It's not exactly the most fulfilling job in the world, but it pays the bills and that's where I'm at. And that's okay too. Like wherever we are is okay. And just to kind of shine a light on the dialectic of it all, that it's like, if you're just in your head, it doesn't really make sense because we're saying two seemingly mutually exclusive things that aren't actually when you get out of your head and into your heart. And that's where I want to hopefully segue with this, because to me, it's about like love and it's about joy and trying to figure out the difference between kind of pleasure from the outside in and joy from the inside out.
Yeah.
And kind of trusting that inner sense of what it is that is best for me to be doing right now. Like what should I be doing? I hate the word should in general because it shames and all of that. But like, what is kind of my most noble kind of action right now? Am I meant to rest or am I meant to clean the house? Am I meant to rest or am I meant to get on a call with Pam? Like, how do we in that moment, and I don't know if you want to jump in and speak to that, like how do you in the moment figure out which you're going to do?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like what you're saying speaks to the skill set of this, right? Like the confusion point, again, understanding, it's not like I'm not perfect at choosing, in the moment. Like it's a consistent, like coming up against the wonder, like, am I gonna be right in my choice, right? Like I really don't believe in right and wrong. Like I believe everything that we do is perfect, which sounds whatever, idealistic. I get it. Meaning that if we choose the wrong thing and we end up in a painful situation, it's still perfect for us because it gives us the information that we need to learn and grow. So if I say in this example today, canceled on you, I would maybe potentially feel later on today that I had missed an opportunity to be extra real and to serve by being a bit more raw and authentic. Not that I'm not authentic, but you know what? I do my hair most of the time. I'm not normally this. Well, that's fine, but I like to.
I love that about you. You're so pretty.
And that's okay. I'm just using that as an example.
I know. And if I could jump in for 1 second, because I love all the things that you're saying. And just to kind of share where I am at with all this, what I have crystallized in any given moment, you are the only person who can decide what's right. And again, I'm totally in alignment. The word right and wrong, no. But you're the only one who can feel what is out of love and joy, or what is out of fear, or cutting off of love, whether it's hate or whether it's judgment, right? A closed-hearted decision. And what I have found to be true, even though it makes no freaking sense, whatever we decide to do, if the spirit behind it is love and trust and faith, that ultimately is leading us to a higher place. Not right or wrong. It's not, none of it is right or wrong because it's all messy and that's life.
I just looked at that this morning. Like what is it? Our wisdom comes from the messes we make.
Yeah.
That's the quote I got from a podcast I was listening to this morning.
I love it. Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah. But that's to me, this has become the simplest compass, powerful as hell.
Yeah.
And it is so consistent. Like I've been testing it out now for the last couple of years and it's like spot on. When I make decisions out of fear, the universe, life, whatever happens next, consistently comes back and kind of slaps me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're right. Silly example. I met with a guy who I connected with through he heard my podcast. And I brought a copy of my book for him because I just thought that would be nice to do.
Yeah.
When I handed it to him, I felt like I should, right?
Yep.
Offer to inscribe it for him. But there's part of me, my work, right, is around this fear of being presumptuous. Like, well, why would he even want me to sign it? Like that kind of fear of not being right.
Sure.
So I didn't offer. I just kind of, thank you. We talked, we had a great conversation. And then he emailed me the next day and said, I really, really regret that I didn't ask you or get you to inscribe this. And I remember that moment so clearly. And I completely, in that moment, didn't act out of fear. Love, generosity, joy propelled me to offer. And I didn't do it because I was like, no, that sounds so ego-y. Same we talked about last week too. But like, silly example, but it is 100% now, 100%. And I'm sure you have your examples too.
Getting like saying, seriously, I had started writing you a text to ask you if it would help you to reschedule. Like
you're busy.
I had typed it out and I was like, again, in that moment of like, is this just and I wasn't quite clear yet. But then like, so being here today is totally like, I'm sure you can feel it in me and my energy that it's because I want to be here.
You're showing up out of love.
Want to be here, which is totally love. Whereas if I felt like I should be here because, I should.
Because I said I would.
In my bad hair, I should do that by leading by example. I should show the messy parts of me. If I had any energy of that connected to this, it would be felt. And I would be here sort of in a blocked way. So,
and I love how that kind of comes full circle to getting back to talking about purposeful living.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even if we are not connected with this big life purpose, like, I'm going to save the fucking whales or like whatever, right? Like this big life purpose.
I really want to talk about this. This is key.
The simplest way to connect with our life's purpose is through feeling love moment to moment in action.
I agree.
It is so simple. We don't need to get all cerebral around big, like, great plans and great visions of greatness and missions and da-da-da. Like, those are great. And like, maybe someday you will suddenly have an epiphany that you're meant to, whatever.
Yep.
But moment to moment, purposeful living is when we're living and acting out of love for ourselves, love for our family, love for our community, love for plants, love for animals. Love. You show up in the moment wherever you are with love, helping someone across the street, helping someone across the street, being of service, feeling love in our heart as we communicate, as we do, like love in action. That is the simplest, easiest, most, when I say easy, because it's hard, because it's all their stuff that blocks our connection to love, all the fear that keeps us out of that place.
Yes.
But that to me is kind of this overlooked simplicity about this conversation around purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that because it gives people a place to start.
Yeah.
An achievable place to start, because I think the conversation, this is what I mean, like the conversation about purpose is it can be so overblown. Like even the entrepreneurial space where that's very sexy and very trendy now to be this entrepreneur, purposeful entrepreneur. Sorry, I have like Matilda hair on my face or something. I feel like that's like, it excludes that there's something, and I bring that word's very, obviously very important to me because I resonate so much with inclusion and connection. But this idea of purpose that we can start someplace so simple that is a place to start, that acting from love in simpler moments, in small moments, learning to read that inner compass and act from it and actually like basically build experience that disproves our fear. Like over time, how do we master anything? How do we overcome fear? We have courage. We try and we experiment with new things to see what works for us. We do it in incremental steps over time based on a choice, conscious choice before that moment occurs. Because like, I think a lot of people come into these moments and they aren't prepared. So therefore they do the same thing, which is normal, right?
Yeah. Our brain is wired for that. Like we can't possibly consciously make decisions around everything we do. It's actually not possible. So we have to have habits and be wired. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to live, like literally.
and where that takes us is that it starts to, like you're saying, take down the fear mask and take down the fear and rewire the brain for the new like ways of being, which basically clears our spirit and our energy, as it were. And that's what helps us connect to and see and ultimately have the courage to go after something that feels purposeful to us. You know what I mean? Like, did I want to be a life coach when I was, 22 years old working at the investment bank? I had no clue, no, but I knew that something in me pulled me very authentically to skydiving. And so that I went that direction, you know what I mean? And so like when I was starting to feel called forward from skydiving and using what I had learned in that space, like that's why I'm now in this work. It's all of those incremental steps that have taken me here. Like if I really look back, and I didn't know at the time, but it is exactly what you just described, choosing from love, whether I knew it or not. Like I think part of me lucked out that I just chose from love because I don't know. It's hard. I'm still working it out.
Big, beautiful heart.
Still working it out. I'm not fishing for compliments.
I'm just saying
about me, for God's sakes. But thank you. And yes, tell me offline. Shit. Blushing. But anyway, I'm going to toss it back to you. Again, my tiredness is definitely here today, but this is such a rich,
it's great. It's
topic.
So, I think it's so, I love, you showing up, and I'm going to certainly have those days too, where I'm, overwhelmed or tired. I mean, yesterday I dropped my daughter off at camp and, she's gone for 3 weeks and it's always tricky. Actually with my husband, because it's very, very stressful for him. And so yesterday was a very draining day for me, not because I jumped out of 25 airplanes. But I had a pretty draining day yesterday too. And I felt heavy and I kind of had to hold space and love that. And I think again, like that starting place, like where do you start? Like if you believe or want to be open to believing the things that we're talking about here, that connecting to a purposeful life will lead to real achievement and greatness and fulfillment, right? It's not just like, it really, on all levels of depending on how you define success, obviously you may not be a trillionaire, but you will feel fulfilled and lead a happy life. Just a starting point of just self-compassion, loving yourself. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. Like yesterday I found myself subconsciously, again, the habit, right? My brain is still wired to be critical of myself. We're all wired to be critical of ourselves because that's how we evolve. That's how we stay safe and survive. And so our brains are all wired for that self-criticism. Unless our parents overindulged us so much as little ones that we, got rewired, but my parents certainly didn't. So I had no fear of that. But just that, being hard on myself that I was feeling down or that I wasn't, as skillful around things. And I felt that heaviness, and just starting with loving that, like being kind of accepting of myself and loving myself. Like that's kind of the first purpose, because if we're not doing that, that's blocking everything else. So fundamentally speaking, talking about a starting place that most of us have not come anywhere near any level of mastery on, clearly, but even just like some slivers of being able to like love ourselves and accept ourselves and our imperfect, from our mind's judgment standpoint, imperfect state. That's to me the number one starting point around connecting with purpose. And then the other kind of trick that I think is a great starting point in terms of actionable kind of shifts.
I love it.
Is kind of taking your eye off of the outcome a little bit, right? And we talk so much how goals are super important, and obviously, but when we're really tied to outcomes, as opposed to kind of being in the practice and enjoying and making the most of kind of the messiness, and then taking the outcomes as they come without judgment. Like, okay, this is not the ideal outcome, and this is what I learned from this outcome, and this is how I'm going to proceed from this place. But that is another, I think, really important starting point, because that will help you be more in the present moment and not be as judgmental and reactive around the expectations, which all our brains do the thing around expectations. It's another conversation we could have, but being aware that when we get stuck on expectations or stuck on outcomes that we wanted to see, that is going to torpedo our connection to purpose as well.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, and it's a couple of different words, but expectation is a premeditated disappointment, or expectation is a premeditated resentment. If we're talking relationship, I think this is where faith comes in. Like there's the skill set of faith, of like having faith that the practice is what leads to what we want, not the outcome giving us the feelings that we want. So it's like, it's really tough. Like it's not an easy thing, obviously, to relinquish our futures and our lives, as it were, to, I just trust that if I do this, I'm going to get happy and fulfilling life. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot, it's tough. Like there is a balance definitely between setting goals and detaching from those outcomes specifically, and attaching our success and happiness to the effort and to the actions and the practice. Like, I don't know. It's just like the faith, like that's the thing. Like that's what really supports me, is having faith that if I do that, act from love and trust, and, obviously again, like it's not that we're just, hands off, nothing matters.
We work our ass off.
It's a balance between specificity, but complete detachment from the outcome. Like those values driven things. And that's the thing too, if we talk about actionables and what people can do, is to really start to wonder and to be curious in yourself and to look and reflect and go, what are my core values?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. It's
when did I feel purposeful in my life?
Yeah.
Have I ever? When did I feel happy? When did I feel peaceful? When did I feel loved? When did I feel just excited? When did I feel on fucking fire? Like all of these questions, and try to really think about what did that for you.
Identify
and break that down to see how that is not the specific outcome that you maybe achieved then, but it's the underlying values that are actually interwoven in what you did and experienced then. Does that make sense?
Totally. And that's exactly where I love, this is why we're friends. Cause it was like, that's what I was going to say. And then you just said it. I was like, I love that. No. I love it. No, but that's the thing. Our core values are kind of like guideposts that if we stay in alignment with our deep core values, it keeps us, it's almost like if we were flashlights. We are bright, shiny lights. But if we were flashlights, it's like, well, how does a flashlight kind of stay contained in a beam? Like, well, there's actual like outward kind of guides. That's where it is. And it doesn't go out there. It stays in there. Yes. But like, to me, that's how core values, the power of core values is that when things are messy and it's not clear at all as to what the next best move is, if we stay in alignment with our core values and allow those to guide us, that power will keep us in alignment. So like for me, my core values are compassion and courage, obviously, and openness and curiosity and surrender and gratitude, humility, all of those that keep me in alignment. And I know that if I stay in touch with those and stay in alignment with those, I don't know what exactly is going to happen next, but I know it's going to be good. Yeah. Not that it isn't going to be painful. And this is what I explain all the time too. It's like, that's why I don't like the word right and wrong or good or bad. Not the only reason why, but one of the reasons why is because it's not that I'm right or that what the decision that I'm going to make is going to seem like in a short-term period, it was the right move. Because there's always so much more going on. So like, it could feel in that moment that by being compassionate, being loving, that I got smacked and I got sent back 3 spaces kind of thing.
Yep.
And in those moments, going back to your conversation around faith or trust, and I like saying trust because faith can be triggering for people.
Yeah,
it can feel like,
exactly. I do not mean faith in the religious sense. I mean,
like trust. Yeah, which you said too.
Absolutely.
But just to kind of shine a light on that,
absolutely.
people, the light analogy.
Good.
But to trust, and I like to say trust myself and trust life. Like
Yes.
trust life. Like I look around, like there is this force of life, like the plants are growing, the sun is shining.
Yes.
Like there's a lot going on that is
Got my
clearly
back.
outside of myself. And I really do, like, if you look around, like, how could you not think that there's some benevolent force of life that is ultimately growing, ultimately evolving? Like intelligence is evolving, life is evolving. And so to me, I trust that. I trust, like you said, that it has my back.
Yeah.
And I trust myself, which is really, really hard for many, many of us. So that's like a big, could be a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But those, like that trust, and trust is one of my core values too. Because in order to surrender, which is what, you know, I normally say, you can't surrender without trust. Otherwise you're going to be in your head all the time fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this fits into purpose, because it's kind of like unlocking the connection to it. Right. And like we said in the beginning, it doesn't matter if you're not yet clear on a bigger purpose, but you could say purposeful living is simply living in alignment with your core values, that you need to deeply kind of reflect on what those are.
Exactly. I think the conversation of purpose almost always is derailed when talking about work. That's where people likely, I think, feel excluded and feel like failing, like they're failing if they don't have a job where they feel purposeful. And I'm like, that's not necessarily how your purpose would show up, you know, like seriously, you know? And so like, I really feel like that's just an important thing to promote.
Yeah. Well, there's been tons of backlash too. Like the whole millennial thing, that like why saying that you need to find your purpose is like the worst possible thing you could tell a young person, because it seems like from like a mental standpoint that your purpose should be this big thing.
Big, grandiose
big thing.
Right.
And did you ever see, I'm sure we've talked about this, the Lollipop Moment video?
No.
Oh, it's so good. So
I'll write it down.
So it's like a mini TED talk. It's like a short one, like an 8-minute one. And
I will definitely watch it.
And the concept is there are these little lollipop moments in our life where we don't even realize or have any kind of visibility on how impactful one little moment of our life was to some bigger kind of scheme of things.
Yeah.
And so this story is about a lollipop moment where someone gave someone a lollipop and then like walked away and had no idea that there was this chain reaction that was life-changing from one simple thing, like going like, hey, you want a lollipop? And giving them a lollipop and then moving on. And then like years later, the story came back, and it's so like thinking about life as these little lollipop moments that is purposeful. It doesn't need to be, and it isn't always manifested as these big things. It can be very small moments of love that you will never know how it ripples.
Exactly. I love that. I believe in that. Like, you wouldn't believe, it's funny. Like I gave basically one of the talks I gave at the parachute symposium about like how to like new jumper, like retention. Cause I'm talking to business owners, drop zone owners. And so they're obviously focused on the business and sustainability. And that's the message. Like that was the deeper, bigger message, is that there is such an opportunity to just care, just to contribute and care about these new, I mean, and this is just in the realm of skydiving and young jumpers who haven't just gotten an A license. If we talk about it, just people in general, it's like, we just never know the kind of impact, because someone was nice to me and helped me in skydiving. I was able to go on and have this wonderful career and get to help more people too. So like, I'm so called to being of service like that. And I don't know, the reason I'm talking about myself is just because we're here, but like, it's, I don't know. It's like, just,
it's relatable. I think it's relatable. Yeah. Well, also too,
for me.
I think that one of the things that makes you so awesome, my humble opinion, is that you've overcome your negativity bias. Right. And we've talked about negativity bias.
Not in every area of my life.
Right.
But in a handful, yes.
And I think it's an appropriate time to talk about, in case someone doesn't know about the negativity bias, or be reminded of, become more of a higher master of your negativity bias, because our brain is wired to notice and stick to remember the negative things that happen to us.
Yep.
way more for survival reasons than the
Mm-hmm.
positive things. So we want to avoid danger. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid things that threaten us.
Yep.
So our brain is wired to remember them, stick on them. So
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have awareness around that, it's very easy for us to go through life and remember all the negative things. Like,
Yeah.
remember, well, I was nice that time, and then that person wasn't nice back. Or, I went out on my way to do something nice, and then it came back and bit me in the ass. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we all have had those things happen.
Sure.
And to overcome that. So when something positive happens, when we get that positive reinforcement back, to be extra mindful, to file it away, be like,
Mm-hmm.
this was good. Like this ended up, that did come back. Like, to really notice, remember, and focus on the positive things that happen.
Yeah.
And we have to be really mindful around that because of the way our brain is naturally wired to remember and notice the negative.
Yeah.
And if we don't overcome that, it makes us have a very negative relationship with life and not trust life.
Yeah.
So I think one of the opportunities as we're starting to do this work is to make ourselves remember and focus on, pay attention to the positives. Because that isn't naturally how our brain is wired. We have to put in effort in order to do that. And if you look around, there's always tons of negative things that you can notice and tons of positive things that we can notice. And if we choose to pay attention to the positives, not to ignore the things that are important that we can grow from, that's not what we're saying, put our head in the sand, but just notice and remember the positive. Because we aren't naturally wired to do that, most of us.
Yeah, it is a practice. Going back to that, I almost want to tell just a little bit of the story about why I said what I just said. I feel like one of the things I want to do with this, what we're doing, is I want to remember to tell some of our stories. Like, I don't think I do as good a job with that, like, because I'm talking about the work and I'm talking about the skill sets.
No, and stories are great.
The stories obviously are so inspiring. So, like, why one of the stories, one of the lollipop moments for me in skydiving, oh God, I almost want to cry just thinking about it.
Yay.
is
It's okay. You can cry. Crying is good. It's gratitude tears. Like, thank you.
This is also my tiredness.
Yeah, that's okay though. Let the feelings flow.
It's so gratitude tears because it really has helped me.
It's healing.
She's gonna totally love this. And I said this story at the symposium as well, but my friend Melissa, when I was learning how to fly head down, I had this goal to fly head down. I definitely can fly head down now. I've been hired around the world to like coach free flying and stuff like that. But when I was first learning, I originally started in skydiving, just really, really focused on belly flying and 4-way competition. And I loved that. And there was this part in my skydiving career where I wanted to transition. And there was a transition moment in my career where I'm like, I want to learn how to free fly, which is this vertical flying, different skill set. And I was committed to the goal and I wanted to do it. And there was this one day where Melissa happened to be at my drop zone visiting. And there was a big group on the plane. And normally I would be with the big group going for this other sort of skydive that I had done a million times. Well, not a million, but you know what I mean? A bunch of times. But I was going to do solo. Because I was like, I want to, I'm committed to my goal. I'm going to work on this skill set. And she was at the end of the group and she decided to stay and do this. Oh my God. Do this 2-way with me. And it was the first time that I ever, oh my God.
It's so good. This is like the beautiful, vulnerable, like really good stuff. And I'm just holding space. So
wonderful. And she stayed and she did a 2-way with me. And I flew head down the first time.
So validating. This is the thing. It's like, just to hold space and make this relatable, since I don't fucking skydive and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. When you say 2-way, I'm like 2-way, 3-way, anyway.
And so so she basically helped me do something I had never done, and I feel like I landed and I cried, and it was wonderful. Like, it was such a beautiful moment in my skydiving career. And without that, you know, like, certainly I probably would have found out, and I would have found a way to like learn how to fly head down. I would have done it without that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment was so meaningful to me because she did that for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she took the time out of her, you know, just life and own experience to just
Mm-hmm.
go and do something that for her was very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so where that goes for me is that I love when I can do that for other people, because I never know whether it's in skydiving or whether it's in life coaching or whether it's in a conversation with someone. You never know what a small act of love, lollipop moment, is going to turn into for someone else.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of like contribution that Melissa made by doing that for me, like, how many people indirectly she has helped through me. And I mean this very seriously. This is not an ego share in any way. It's just that my motivation to help others in the same way is fierce.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm definitely more emotional when I'm tired. No question. Like,
but it's good. And just to hold space,
but it's
to hold space. But also
Healing.
too, it's like whenever someone does something to validate that we're important, right? That we're worthy of love and care.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that as human beings, we all need, deserve, I hate that word, but like are worthy of.
Yep. It's the Brene Brown. We're all worthy of love and belonging.
We're all worthy of love and belonging. And so when we treat others in that way, when we put others' well-being in front of any selfish motivation we may have at the moment, little tiny moments, little things that don't cost us hardly anything, or even if they do cost us things, but like that is such a powerful act of service. And talk about purpose. You know, you're basically lighting that, you know, the Buddhism, like if you light a candle with your candle, your flame doesn't get any less powerful. You're sharing and it goes on. And that's love. Like you know, another dialectic when we talk about purpose, people say, you know, protect your energy, you know, don't go spreading your energy around town, helping everyone. Yes. Like there's the dialectic of that. And I mean, you have to know yourself and feel what you're capable of in any given moment and recognize that when it comes to love, we have infinite sources. And energy, yes, we may need to rest in between. Like we are human beings. So we do have kind of human, you know, limits. And when it comes to love, we don't lose anything. If anything, it makes our own flame stronger when we give love to others.
Exactly. It's funny that just this weekend I coached skydiving at a drop zone.
This beautiful moment.
It's
we're having
love,
it's
man.
beautiful.
It's freaking love. It's so true. But this weekend is another great example of I coached skydiving at a drop zone in Connecticut, and I went there because one of my old teammates asked me to go. Because I'm pretty committed to not working in skydiving much anymore in the same way that I used to, like in terms of traveling and going to drop zones and coaching on site, just because I want a more domestic, settled life. And that's just a choice I'm moving forward in my life on. But I was very happy to go to this drop zone because of my old teammate, meet all these people. It really is a wonderful experience. But the reason I bring it up is that somebody asked me there, he was at the kind of end of the weekend of my time there. I knew a bunch of people and stuff. And he's like, wow, like you, how do you remember names like that? Like, like he basically asked me, how do I remember, like was impressed or just like unsure how I knew everybody's name. And the answer I said very readily and earnestly was, I care because I care. I actually care that if I put in a little extra effort to care about another person, to know who they are, and a simple way to do that, remember someone's name, like I just make a tiny bit of extra effort to remember someone's name, like quiz myself when I'm looking across the drop zone and go, okay, that's Sarah. Okay, that's Chris. Okay, that's Mike. Okay, that's, you know, and because when someone remembers me, it makes a difference, you know? So like, that's another version of like how I try to show up as love and care for others and make those lollipop moments possible when I can.
That's beautiful. And I can just say that I suck at names, and it's not because I don't care. I really do truly care. I just suck at names. Like I always say, like I remember people's essences. Like I remember you and I'll remember you forever, but not like necessarily in this body or your name.
I suck at birthdays.
Yeah.
I don't remember
So, you know, no guilt or shame around the things you're good at or not. And it doesn't necessarily mean, but it's also
absolutely
a great segue. It's like, again, like
that's one of my ways. That's exactly. This is in no way promoting like, if you don't remember names, you don't care about people. Fuck no. It's like,
and you can fuck up my name a million times and I will never be offended because I am the person that
I'm never offended when someone forgets my name ever. I'm just like, cool.
Well, that's good. Yeah, no,
like
good.
seriously.
Yeah, don't public service announcement. Don't be offended if someone doesn't remember your name. But if you can remember people's names, that's awesome, and do it.
It's an opportunity. It's not like, oh, we're failing if we don't. It's that this is a cool opportunity to show love. But it's like, like it's again back to the negativity bias versus the positive frame.
Yeah.
It's
just
like
take it as an opportunity.
Frame is just so rigidly, epically like there for me around that particular.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like, it's cool. No,
we all do that's the thing, and that's the cool thing too. It's like we're all so unique and have different skill sets and different powers. And I so to the core of my being believe that it's meant to be that way. Like not everyone's meant to remember names. Not everyone's meant to be able to sing. Not everyone's meant to be able to whatever. It's like we're all unique beings that together, if we all do our best in all the different ways that we can, together we'll be able to kind of fulfill the full spectrum of what greatness can be.
And purpose goes back to that. Like not everyone has the same fucking purpose. I
love when we come back full circle on our whole talk. I love that.
It's like, but it's the whole, we all have unique gifts. Like
what lights you up? Like that whole, like what lights you up? What lights you up is not what lights me up, is not what lights my kids up. There was this great parenting talk I listened to over the weekend about how as parents, you know, we subconsciously kind of wire our kids to think about kind of failure as being a negative and living up to the parents' expectations as being something that's important. And then when they don't live up to our expectations, you know, they weigh down, and it teaches them not to trust themselves, right? Because they, at the end of the day, each of us at the end of the day, need to get to this deeper place of awareness and trust and knowing of what lights us up. And it may be insane to everyone else, but if it lights you up to make, you know, candy flowers, then that's your thing. And like, and it may make no sense to someone else, but like to be in touch with what really lights us up and how we can use that to be of service, right? To make the world a better place. Like that whole thing they say, like the circles of intersection, like all of your passions and like what the world needs and like where they intersect is like what you're meant in a perfect world to be able to do. That's great. And in the interim, like that, the stuff that lights you up, it may be a hobby in the beginning, or it may be lollipop moments where it's not necessarily like you've got some big project or some bigger passion. It could just be showing up and being of service and being loving and being positive and you know, caring.
Absolutely. I love the candy flowers example because I feel like, honestly, I feel
made
like,
it up.
Meaning I feel like skydiving was my candy flower at first. It started like, I just love this, just really love this, you know, and then it evolved into something different. Like maybe doing your candy flowers will lead you to something different in the future. Maybe you'll be fulfilled forever doing candy flowers. It's like, that's the thing. It doesn't even matter. It's really just about what's going on for you.
And what you make of it. Right? Like our life is what we make of it. And it's not at all of consequence what anyone else thinks. It's about what we are being. If we are showing up in our life with passion, you know, with love, with our best effort, doing our best work, that's when things can start to blossom. And it, you know, it's not going to make sense to most other people because they're not you. And that's the whole thing that we have to deal with our fear around. And like, if we're looking around to see if we're on the right path, if we're like looking around to see whether we're good enough, whether we're doing the right thing, we have to learn to trust ourselves and trust if it sparks joy, if it feels right, even if it makes no fucking sense, you go and you do it. And then you see what comes of it. Like, but it's that trust that's hard as hell.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome, girl. I think we end on that note. What a good stuff, man. Dude, I should show up exhausted more often.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe I was gonna make a joke about drinking, but I don't drink. So I come drunk, but I don't drink. So
no.
I'm really fun when I'm drunk. So
I guarantee I actually can't wait to share this one with Melissa, and I'll probably make her cry again too. Love you if you're watching.
Beautiful.
But yeah, same deal, guys, for those of you watching and paying attention and following us, whether you're listening or watching, drop us a line. We are opening up these conversations for a reason, for, the purpose, of, being of service and exploring this stuff that has at least worked for us and made our lives better and helped us navigate our human experience in a way that feels more joyful and peaceful and fulfilling, which again are buzzwords, like crazy buzzwords. But if you're inspired in any way, reach out to us, and we'll keep this going and growing. Anything else, Pam?
No, that's it. I mean, if any of this is like, but I love, like, I have a lot of friends and we have these conversations. They're like, but Pam, and then they have like their but.
Right.
And like, I love to hear the but.
Yes.
Because the but is where you're stuck, which is awesome because that's the opportunity. So like anything in this where you're like, but that's the part that we're like in our head and we can't make sense of.
Definitely.
And that's what's kind of getting us stuck. So the buts are like super, super powerful and important. And
bring it on.
I love hearing, but Pam, I'm like, great, let's get deeper. Because then you gotta like peel off more layers and get to a deeper, kind of more rooted part of the understanding.
That's where we can.
Because it doesn't make sense in our brain. It's not linear. It can't make sense. You got to get deeper.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
love you.
Right. Love you.
See you later. Get some rest. I love you.